Understand, of course, we want to increase tax compliance, help people to meet their responsibility better. But as a nation, we've consistently had a tax gap since we've had a tax code. I don't think you find any industrial nation that has 100% tax compliance. I don't think you ever will. And I think the focus should really be on our government tightening their purse strings, learning how to be responsible with our money, just like a small business does. And I agree that, all of a sudden it seemed like this pot of money was a, exciting pot of money to go after as we're looking to pay for different proposals. And again, many of these proposals that they're looking to attach these recommendations to will actually have no benefit to a small business owner. So you're asking these people, this foundation of our economy, who has $62,000 a year, to squeeze out a little more, to help our government, and they're already struggling. So I think we need to be mindful of who we want to help and who we are going to hurt in that process.
Thank you. Mr. McCracken, you mentioned that one of your principal concerns or worries was that the additional audits that small businesses could be subjected to. Obviously, other than the psychological trauma that the small business owner and their employees, because their jobs could literally be at risk depending on how the audit comes out, could you tell us why that's particularly burdensome to a small business to have to go through an audit?
Oh, sure. I mean, an audit can be an extraordinarily time-consuming activity. A lot of small companies don't have a full-time CPA on staff or even on retainer for their companies, so it's an issue they often are in a position of dealing with personally, and it can go on for quite some time and really sap a lot of the time and energy out of a company, even if at the end of the day there is no additional tax revenue that is required to be paid. So, I mean, an audit is no small thing, and to the extent the IRS, I mean, we think it's a good idea for the IRS to figure out ways to target audits appropriately, and they've said they want to do that, and we think that to the extent they're going to audit people, they ought to figure out who are the best targets. Our concern is that the credit card information is going to provide a great deal of misleading information about who those targets really ought to be, and they're going to be auditing folks that aren't appropriate targets.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sun, you had mentioned that, and of course you have privacy concerns as one of your big concerns, and I've been very active in that area over the years, and I'm very interested in it as well. And you mentioned that one of the concerns was the Social Security numbers being more susceptible to thieves getting a hold of these things. And could you explain the significance of that, what it is that the thieves do with these things, and why that's such a risk to both the small business and anybody that may be listed on there?
Sure. I mean, it's been a finding of everyone who's looked into identity theft that really the most important piece of information an identity thief would like to get is a Social Security number for purposes of trying to open, fake bank accounts in someone else's name and so forth. That's an extraordinarily valuable piece of information and is really the gateway to identity theft and a variety of scams. And, so the general principle, and this is the precise policy the government has adopted, is we need to stop relying on Social Security numbers so much. We need to stop collecting and using them as much as we do, because when they're out there and when they're stored in lots of different databases all over the place, it just creates more opportunities that through data breaches it could fall into the wrong hands. So really trying to minimize Social Security number use is a core piece of the strategy of combating identity theft, and if this proposal goes the opposite direction.
Thank you very much. And